This one's really common. It happens all the time.
Here's Johnny!
Especially on hollow core doors. They're the ones that are hollow on the inside. It's got a shell on the outside and then corrugated cardboard on the inside to kind of keep it apart from each other. And then all along the perimeter, it's got wood, but it only goes about ½ an inch thick. So it's really common for this to happen, where somebody puts this thing on backwards. So when the door shuts, it just punches a hole right through it. First of all, we need to repair the problem that caused this in the first place. And when you go to remove the pin in the middle that holds this hinge in place, sometimes it's challenging because these get really stuck in there. The best tool for that is to use an ice pick or a nail that's about this thickness and a hammer. And you want to come up underneath it and gently give it a tap until you can reach that pin and pull it out. I've pulled this off of the door, and you can see that tiny little area that we were using as a stopper serves perfectly as just a hole punch. What we should have done is use this side. I've got a second one here for comparison. If you look at the surface space of this rectangular piece, it's probably double the surface space of this little hole puncher. So what we want to do is certainly change that around so that that part's hitting the door. So we're going to switch it around. We're going to put that part facing the door. So when you put it back in, you'll notice that those often don't align. Just pull the door closed a little bit until it falls into place. We're going to add a second one. What this does is it gives the door 2 stopping points.
2, count them, 2.
And so it kind of expands the surface space for stopping, and it will minimize the damage that will happen to the door. So that one's secure. And do make sure you get them all the way into place. You don't have to pound them really hard, but just get that at the top of the pin. It's a little bit wider, and you want that to tap down into the hinge. And we want to make sure that these both hit about at the same point with the same amount of pressure. So if I find that this one is hitting way before the top one, what I want to do, or way after it, I want to let off on the pressure on this one or add a little bit more so that I find them hitting about the same time so that they're both evenly, and I can see that's not. So I'm going to give it a little bit more up on top. That one and that one are hitting at about the same pressure, so they're both stopping the door from opening any further. To repair this properly, we're actually gonna have to make a little more damage. I wanna come to the damage of the hole here, and I wanna just punch it through. I wanna get this stuff that's broken out of the way. And you'll notice I'm kind of beveling the edge of it. But any of that's weak, I went out of there. And so I'm gonna do a little bit more damage to the door. And then I'm beveling the edge out, kind of feathering it, so that I can see the exposed area. And that piece right there, I went all the way out of the way. I want it to sink down and fall inside the door. Same with this stuff here, which may mean that I have to get a sharp knife. It's always important to work with a sharp knife, because if they're dull, you have a chance to cut yourself. And we don't want to do that. So I'm pulling all this broken stuff out and pushing it out of the way and get it all the way clean. I'm going to come around like this and see how I'm just kind of feathering, actually making a wider surface space there. By the way, this process works whether it's a little hole that's a punch through the door, or a fist, or a shoe, or a door handle. It doesn't matter what size it is, the same process works. I want to fill this hole. I want to fill all the way. It's going to expand and fill all the way around here. It's this kind of stuff. It's actually going to shoot out of here and ooze out, and that's what we want. Because what that's going to do is it's going to give some strength to that core behind it where it punched through in the first place. And then it's going to give us something to stick to patch it up and close it up. So we're going to go like this, and we're going to go ahead and bend that down inside and let it fill. Let it fill inside. And it's going to fill all that gap in the corrugation. And I'm going to go up too. And on the side.
Bring it around town.
And you can see, there it goes. And starting to ooze out, and that's okay. We want that. It's going to ooze and spread out. That's what it does, is it starts to expand and fill in that space. This stuff is tremendously sticky. Don't let it drop on your clothing, on the carpet, or your skin. When you have a little bit like this that's left, get a paper towel. Squirt it upside down into a paper towel. Clear out this tube, and you can use the rest of it later. One of the things you're going to start to notice very immediately is the sound difference. Listen to this. You can already hear that that's filling in that hollow space, and it's becoming a little bit more solid. Now we're going to pluck this off. Just go like that and pull it off. And I'd get a razor blade and just take off any excess. So now I'm just doing a final scrape across, getting all the foam. I love Bondo. Let me tell you how much I love Bondo. It's a great tool. Everyone ought to have this in their tool chest. It's cheap and it doesn't go bad. It doesn't dry out. You can keep it for years and years. I've had this for almost 20 years, I bet.
20 years.
That's probably not how I would have done it.
And I still use it. And it dries hard. It's still a little bit flexible, so when I put it on that hole in the door and the door shuts and shuts and shuts, it's not gonna break loose and start to fall apart and crack out. That may happen with wood putties or with, especially with spackle. Spackle has a tendency on anything that moves or vibrates to come loose. Caulk will dry and it will compress and shrink and it'll pull away and it'll leave dents and stuff. This is it, man. This is the way to go. So here's how we're gonna mix it. It doesn't take a lot. You're gonna notice that it's 2 parts. You've got this part right here, which is the agent or the material, and then this is the drying agent or the hardening agent. You're also going to observe that they're not the same size. So you're not going to put equal portions in there. Let me show you about how much it's going to take us to do this. That wasn't a very big hole, but so I'm going to use about that much. That's overkill, in fact. Let's go a little less. I'm going to use about that much. There we go. Put that lid back on. And you do got to know this. Bondo stinks. And then this, I'm going to use, boy, about a BB size of the hardener. Not much at all. Because the more hardener you put in, the quicker or the more quickly it will dry. This is a chemical reaction on Bondo, and so it's not that it's drying by evaporation like most liquids, or like most water-based or alcohol-based liquids do. This is a chemical reaction, so it's going to dry internally, and it's going to put off heat. It's going to go pretty quick if it starts to get hot. But I want to make sure it's mixed thoroughly. I want to make sure I don't have any pink striations or any gray striations, that it's equally colored.
So let's do this thing!
I find the best thing for application is an old credit card, an old gift card, something like that. And we'll just get it and push it in. Make sure that it pushes all the way in, fills in that vacancy. We'd rather have a little bit more than a little less. We don't want any dimpling. And we can always knock it down with a razor blade or sandpaper afterwards. I can already feel this starting to get warm in my hand, which means it's starting to dry. That chemical reaction is taking place. This thing will probably be dry in about 5 minutes. That's completely dry now. I'm gonna use my razor blade, sharp razor blade. I'm gonna knock this down just a little bit. Now I'm gonna get my sandpaper and knock this down. Do you remember how we used that ice pick a little while ago? I want to use that same tool to remove any of the remaining Bondo from these grains, because we want to maintain the grains. That's what's going to make it look like it's, you know, the natural wood that we're replacing and repairing. So I'm just sticking this probe into the very tip of the wood grain and just letting it follow its path. Then what I'm doing here is I want to mimic the wood grain that's extant in the door already. So I'm going to scratch along that wood grain to match it as best I can. It won't be a perfect match, but it'll continue rather than just having a blank right there. Now we're going to prime it, let it dry, and paint it. The key to paint is making sure that you apply it, but then you also have the paint going the same. You want to make your final brush stroke the same direction as the grain that's on there. And that way it'll blend in the paint. Same with our big patch up here. My name's Jared. Thanks for watching DIY with Confidence, the channel dedicated to helping you have confidence in tackling some of the tasks around your home. Will you take a moment and give me a like on this video? And please subscribe to my channel. If there's something that you have a question on, or if there's something you'd like to see in the future, please leave me a comment below and I'll reply to those. So I look forward to seeing those in the future.